guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I want to talk about all the series that I haven't finished, and I've broken them down into 3 categories. So books I probably will never finish, books that I'm unsure about and you can probably change my mind, and series that I for sure am going to continue. So let's start with the books that I am for sure going to continue reading, but I haven't for numerous reasons. I haven't been able to get the next book for my library, or the next book isn't out yet, etc. And these are all of the series that I started in 2020. I will not be talking about anything prior to that. I didn't pull any books from my shelves for this video, so you're welcome, editing Ashley. So Binti is essentially the story of Binti, who is the first in her people to be accepted into this galactic space academy, I guess. It's a 3-book series, a trilogy. They're each novellas, and the first one was about her actually traveling to the school, and like mid-flight some stuff goes down. I gave the first one 3 stars, but I'm definitely interested in the series. I really like the mixture of spirituality and science that is introduced, and we meet some aliens and stuff and like some other species, and it was just really interesting, so I'm excited to continue. So if you watched my wrap-up from a couple of months ago, you will know that I read the Gilded Wolves, which I don't know the series. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. I thought that the characters were very endearing. It was very fast-paced, and I'm excited to pick up the second one. It's called like the Serpent something, or the something serpent, but this has often been compared to 6 of Crows because Leigh Bardugo invented the idea of a heist, I guess. This is essentially about a group of 6 characters who are trying to get back this artifact to save or to rebuild their friend's house that has essentially fallen, and in this society, like, houses rule the different factions, I guess. Like, they're different, like, factions. Yeah, anyways, so they want to pull off a heist, and I loved the characters, and the plot was super fast-paced. I will say, if you are a big fan of 6 of Crows, this is this is significantly less about characters, whereas I feel like 6 of Crows is like character driven, and there is some plot in there, but we all know you're there for the characters. But this has endearing characters that you can get behind, but it also is very fast-paced and has a very nice plot, and the magic system is good. So overall, I enjoyed it. I'm excited to get into the second book. Oh, this next one, I cannot wait to jump into the second book. In October, I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is the first book in a series, again, that I don't know what it's called, and I gave the first one 4 stars. This is the murder investigation done by this high school senior or junior for a school project. She basically wants to find out the truth behind a crime that happened 5 years prior, where a high school cheerleader ended up being killed, and her boyfriend was accused, but he committed suicide before they could charge him or investigate any further. So the town was just like, well, he killed himself, so like obviously that means he's guilty. We don't need to investigate it any further. And she teams up with his brother and to figure out like what exactly happened to her and what happened to him, because she doesn't think that it was a suicide. And it's so good. I have a very like love-hate relationship with thrillers, and especially murder mysteries, because there's just always this oomph that I'm missing. Like, there's something about the story that I'm always like kind of iffy about, or it wasn't unpredictable enough, or like it just wasn't as adventurous or as exciting as I wanted it to be. And this was like a perfect mix. I loved it so much, and I cannot wait to pick up the second one. And I think in the second one she's in college, so I'm super excited. So then I would really like to continue the Legacy of Orisha series, the first book being The Children of Blood and Bone. I don't know if this is just a duology. I know the second one is currently out, but I read The Children of Blood and Bone and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really loved it. I loved the world building. and the magic system was just impeccable. The plot is like, you know, your typical fantasy story. It was just so well done that I cannot wait to pick up the second one. So this is a multiple POV story, and it follows a girl named Zelly, whose people named the Orisha basically lost all their powers, and a lot of her people died. The kingdom essentially murdered all of them and repressed the magic. And Zelly has magic, or she did have magic, and then when this genocide happened, she ends up just kind of having to repress it, pretend that she is not an Orisha. And she's living in this poor town with her father and her brother, and then she runs into the crowned princess, who has stolen a magical artifact that could possibly bring magic back to their land, and she has to work with the crowned princess to figure out how to use this artifact to bring magic back. Another point of view is the crowned prince, who is trying to hunt them down, but he's also trying to figure out his own powers and like how to repress his own powers, because he's showing some magical abilities. And I really liked it. I love the world building. I love the magic system. I gave it 4 stars because I feel like Anon, the crown prince's character development was a little off. Like his arc was just kind of weird and rushed and just disjointed. But I'm super excited to read the second book. I am hesitant because I have not heard the best things about it, but I'm still super excited to read it. The next series is, I believe it's called the Wicked Saints series, which is the first book is called Wicked Saints. And I only gave the first one 2 out of 5 stars because I wasn't like a super fan. I'm sorry if you can hear crickets in the background. It's Pascal's food. Didn't super like the first one. I thought that the world building and like the world needed some beefing up, but the second book I think is going to be about a character that I absolutely adored, and I'm excited to pick it up. I'm hoping that the editors will kind of be like, this needs some spice, this needs something more, because what you're giving us is, it ain't it. The world was just hard to picture, the magic system wasn't really explained, and there was a whole point of view that just was irrelevant. We didn't need it, we were wasting time with it, and it just wasn't super well done. And I'm hoping that the second one will just get better. So the next series that I want to talk about is the Last Magician series, which I think is a duology. At least at the moment. I read the first one, The Last Magician, last month, and I really liked it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars as well. This one is about Esta, who is a magician, and she can time travel back and forth. Her father figure, her mentor, tells her that she needs to travel back to the early 1900s to retrieve this artifact that is about to be stolen, and that is very important for saving their people from this tyrannical group that is essentially trying to kill them all off and steal their power. So she goes back to the early 1900s to stop this heist from happening and take the artifact herself, and she ends up getting stuck there, and she ends up having to work with the people that she is trying to keep from performing the heist but also steal from, basically. I really liked it. I really liked the magic system. I really liked the world building. I think that it was explained very well. I loved the atmosphere and the vibes, and I really liked the characters. I just wish we had gotten a little bit more character work in the book. It's a fairly large book. I think it's a little under 500 pages if I'm not mistaken, and we just didn't see a whole lot of character growth or character, just really anything, and I would have liked to see some more. But I'm not opposed to picking up the second one, obviously, and I'm excited to jump back into the world. So the next series is the Davabod Trilogy, which I read the first book, The City of Brass, and I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This is about several points of view. So you have your main character, Nahiri, Dara, and Ollie. And Nahiri appears to be just this peasant girl who uses her abilities to perform cons, and she cons people out of money And then one day she accidentally summons a djinn named Dara, and Dara basically says, you have these powers, and there is a city called the City of Brass where you can go and be protected from this world, basically, like from the outside world. And then Ollie is the crown prince to the family that runs the kingdom of the City of Brass. Everything about this is phenomenal. The tie-in of the folklore, the magic system, the world building, I keep saying that, just everything is so great. Dara is like, I love Dara. I don't know if we're supposed to, but I do. Just is so well done and so well, it's just beautifully written. And I'm so excited to continue the trilogy. Lots of people love it. And I am just really excited. If I keep saying that, just know that I'm really excited. All right, so the next two, I'm more leaning towards yes, but they might still be on the you can change my mind track. So the first one is Kingdom of Souls, which I'll put the series title right here if it's not Kingdom of Souls. I originally gave this first one 3 out of 5 stars, and then I ended up bumping it down to 2, I think. This is an African-inspired story about a girl who comes from a family of very powerful witch doctors, but she actually doesn't have any powers herself, and so she needs to use any power or any resources that she can find to save these children that are going missing in her village. And so she kind of makes a deal, and this deal involves years off of her life for magic, but the problem is you don't know how many years this magic is taking from you. And that's really just the beginning. I really liked the world building and I liked the tie-in of folklore, but there was too many plots. The book is big, and I think that there was just too much trying to be crammed into the book when I felt like one plot line should have been the focus, and then that one should have been built upon, and then maybe the rest could have been looked at maybe in a different book. But altogether, the writing was beautiful. It was paced very weirdly, and the plot was just very weird. But I'm leaning more towards yes, reading the continuation of the series. And when I continue, I might reread the first one. And I'm not sure if the second one is out yet, because I think Kingdom of Souls came out this year. And then the next one I'm also kind of iffy about. It's A Darker Shade of Magic, which I don't remember what this series is called. This is like going to be a running theme. And I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars as well. This is a very popular series about... I might just move this to my no category because I'm already kind of feeling iffy about it. It's basically the story of a magician or this like magical creature or person that's like he's something, and there are like these different worlds, and him and like one other person of his kind are the only people that can switch between the multiverses, and he finds like this artifact that needs to be returned to one of the worlds, and he like runs into this peasant girl who goes on the adventure with him, and I could not tell you a single event about it. Like, it was just really forgettable, and I probably am gonna move this into my no category as far as continuing because it just wasn't anything special to me. So then we have We Hunt the Flame, which I think the series is called We Hunt the Flame. I don't know. I'm gonna stop trying to figure out what the series names are. But I originally gave this 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, and I think I bumped it down to 3 because I cannot remember it, but at the time I remember loving it. And I think it's essentially a heist story about this girl who has magical powers teaming up with this like prince that is, I think, trying to also take this artifact, and some other people, and like you find out there's this whole magical world, and just like your stereotypical fantasy. But I distinctively remember the writing being really gorgeous, and I liked the characters. But for the life of me, every single time I've tried to recall it, even in my wrap-up for that month, I couldn't remember what it was about. But I'm still interested in continuing, so once I pick up the sequel, I'll probably reread the first one as well. So we only actually have 3 more that I'm definitely planning on continuing. This video is going to be long. The next series that I definitely plan on continuing is Serpent and Dove. The second one in the series actually just came out in the past couple of months, I want to say. This is like one of those series that people love to hate on BookTube, but it's just a really enjoyable fantasy story. It's set against the backdrop of France, but it's essentially the marriage between a witch and a witch hunter, and it's just fun. It's enjoyable. It's like cliche-y French, and there's just random French words thrown in. I really enjoyed it. It's just a fun read, but I am excited to see how the second one kind of dives into the world of witches and magic and stuff, and I am excited to pick it up whenever I just want a fun fantasy. Next is the Guinevere Deception series. If you have been on my channel for any amount of time, you probably know that I am a King Arthur stan. I will consume anything King Arthur. I love the Arthurian legends, everything. And so when I picked up the first book in this series, which is essentially about a fake Guinevere that is sent to protect Arthur from basically impending doom, I really liked it. I gave the first one 4 out of 5 stars. I probably would have bumped it down if I didn't love Arthurian legend so much, but I'm excited to pick up the second one. It's very atmospheric. It feels like appropriate to that time period, and I love Guinevere, and I'm excited to see her explore her powers and all that. I don't know if I necessarily if I can get on board with her relationship with Arthur, just because at this point I'm not totally feeling the connection. And that is the last series that I want to talk about that I'm definitely going to be reading. So then we will go on to the series that I definitely won't be continuing. You probably can't change my mind. So the first is the Scythe series, which I read the first and second book for a book club that I did. I didn't like it at all. Like, I thought the concept was really interesting, but the characters were horrible, the romance was horrible, the plot was absolutely bad, and the more I think about it, the less I like it. And the second one was really, really bad. I gave the second one 2 out of 5 stars. I didn't like it at all. Next is the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I have read the first, second, and third book. I have not read the novella, and I have no plans on reading the next book that's coming out in the series. The third one, I liked the first one okay. It was like a typical fantasy. I loved the second one. I think I either gave it 4 or 5 stars, and then the third one was just dumpster fire. The plot was horribly plotted, all character development was lost, and the ending like genuinely just made me angry. So I have no plans on continuing. And then following that, Throne of Glass, I have no plans on continuing. I have a very weird relationship with Sarah J. Maas, where sometimes I like her writing and sometimes I really don't. I just think she copies herself over and over again, and I could not get over Selena, the main character in the Throne of Glass series. She was so annoying and just, I could not stand her. So she's 100% the reason that I won't be continuing the series. So the next series that I will not be continuing is the Raven Cycle. I read the Raven Boys and the second book, which I think is the Dream Thieves. I gave the Raven Boys 3 or 4 stars, and then I did not even finish Dream Thieves. It was horribly plotted and so boring, and I just didn't care, and I think that some cool ideas were introduced in that book, but they just were not handled well at all, and I just didn't care about any of the characters by the second book, so I'm not continuing that. Next, I will not be continuing the Truly Devious series. This is basically about a academy for really smart kids in their own respective fields, and the main character Stevie gets into the academy because she is like a true crime stan, and she wants to solve the crime that happened at this academy. I had a horrible time reading this book. It was often compared to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and so I was like, heck yeah. No. Again, nothing happened, terribly plotted. I didn't see any investigation or anything happen until halfway through, and then it was even then lackluster. The ending pissed me off. I didn't like any of the characters, so no. I will not be continuing the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. Again, horribly plotted. The characters were boring. I didn't care and the only thing I liked was the atmosphere. I will not be continuing to All the Boys I Loved Before, which is a super popular YA romance story about a girl who writes letters to her crushes. The letters end up getting sent out. I liked the first one okay. It was just decent. It wasn't anything that like really sparked anything in me that I didn't really like love it. I didn't hate it, and my life doesn't feel any different after having read it, so I don't really plan on continuing the series. I will not be continuing the Caraval series. I really did not like the first one at all. Like I had expectations and it failed every single one of them. Writing was bad, world building was bad, character development was bad. It was all just flat, and I don't really have any interest in giving it a second chance. And then the last two series that I will not be continuing is the Lunar Chronicles, which is a fairy tale retelling series but with cyborgs, and I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the characters, didn't like the world building. I don't think I'm a retelling person. I don't think I really enjoy retellings. I want something new, fresh, and original. I don't have time to be reading that, so I just have no interest in continuing the series. I don't jive well with Marissa Meyer's writing. I have read other things by her, and we don't get along. And then the last series that I will not be continuing is the Wayward Children series, which is after kids get back from these magical worlds like Neverland, Wonderland, all those places like Narnia, like what happens to them? And I have no interest again in continuing the series. I read the first one, didn't really enjoy it, didn't really connect. The writing's fine, and a lot of people love the series. I just have no interest in continuing. So let's go on to my last category, where you could definitely change my mind one way or the other. These are books that I'm just like, if someone told me they didn't like them, I probably would take their word for it. If they said they loved it, I probably would take their word for it and go with whichever way. The first one is the Shadow and Bone series. I read Six of Crows and I really liked Leigh Bardugo's writing. I know that the Shadow and Bone series is the first series in her Grisha-verse world, and I've heard very mixed things about it. I've heard that the writing is very just lackluster, very, stereotypical YA, and I feel like I've missed that train. But let me know if you liked it, and I might change my mind. The next series you can change my mind about is The Poppy War. I read the first one several months ago, and I originally gave it 4 stars, and then I dropped it down to 3. I think that the writing was decent. I think that the fact that she wrote this at 19 is absolutely astounding, and I applaud her so much for that. But I had a lot of issues with it. I had a lot of issues with the characterization, and I didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of other people did. But if you say that the characterization gets better and the violence makes more sense and isn't just kind of useless or just there for shock value or torture porn, I would definitely continue, and let me know, because this was more of a yes continuing than a no continuing, because I know this is a beloved series and I want to give it a chance if it's worth it. You could also probably change my mind about The Beautiful. I guess the second one is called The Damned, but I read The Beautiful a couple months ago or beginning of the year, and it was decent. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And I think that it was marketed all wrong, but I kind of went in knowing that it was marketed all wrong. It just wasn't very interesting. The romance was insta-love, which is pretty common, and it just didn't feel well paced to me, and it didn't give me like the thrills that I was looking for. But change my mind. If The Damned is great, let me know, I'll continue. The second to last series that you can definitely change my mind in a positive way to is The Diviners. I read the first one and absolutely loved it. And then the second one, I got about 200 to 250 pages in, and it was horribly boring, but I remember the first one also being very slow paced, and I still loved it. So if you can convince me that the rest of the series is worth it, I will 100% move on and continue the series. I would probably have to pick up the second one as an audiobook, because it was just too slow for me to read it with my eyes, I guess. And then the last series that it's gonna take some convincing to get me in a positive light, is the Strange the Dreamer series. I hyped up the first one a whole lot, I think, and the reason that I didn't really like it as much, because I told myself that it was 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 star, and it just didn't meet those expectations. And I think that it was too slow and not enough character development to be a good book, in my opinion. It's either going to be plot driven or character driven, and neither of them were very strongly developed, I felt like, and it just was kind of a little bit boring to me. But my mind can be changed. If you say the second one is great, then I will definitely pick up the second one. So those are all of the series that I have started and not finished in 2020. Comment down below your thoughts on any of these series. Let me know if I should pick any of these series up, maybe try to change my mind. I'm open to any opinion, but that's gonna be it for this video. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to catch you guys in my next one. Thanks so much.